You might have never met this morning's guest, but he's been your attorney for years. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on All American People. Good morning. Welcome to All American People. This morning we're at the Horry County Government and Justice Center in Conway, South Carolina. We're focused on the Solicitor's office, and we're visiting with the Honorable Greg Hembree, the Solicitor for Horry and Georgetown counties. Good morning, Greg.
Yeah, good to be here.
I don't hear good morning, Greg, and say good morning, Greg, that often.
Like you're looking in the mirror.
I know, I love it. I wish I looked like that. How exciting to get you in, and this is
it's a lot of activity. We stay. This is a place that stays very busy. So, yeah, it's fun to have you here.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be here. And of course, for you, you're on the road a good bit between these two gigantic counties. You've got the largest county in the state. You've got the fourth largest county in the state. How do you do it?
It's a lot of time in the car. That's one of the things that when I ran for solicitor, I really did not expect, or a lot of things you do expect. I didn't appreciate how much time I'd be back and forth in the car. So if it wasn't for cell phones and being able to talk on the phone without hands-free, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, without hands-free, it would be very difficult. Now, do you take some downtime in the car? Or do you ever use that time in the car to kind of wind down? And of course, for you living in Little River, I mean, you were really traveling on the roads a good bit.
Well, it's true. I mean, and Little River's a long way from Andrews. I'm here to tell you. If I have to go to Andrews for something, I feel like I've driven to Columbia. But sure, yeah, there's time for that. Usually in the mornings I'm doing a little more work, and then in the evenings I'm pretty well played out, and I'll rest on the way home.
Could you have ever imagined that you would actually think of that in the car? I'm doing a little work.
It would not. No, yeah. I mean things. Just the technology has changed so much and allow us to do that.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
It is very exciting. Greg, are you originally from the area?
No, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. That was my hometown, and went to graduated high school there and college there. And then came to South Carolina for law school, married a South Carolina girl, and that's the end of that. I'm never leaving. And then moved to Horry County for a job. I began my career here as city attorney for North Myrtle Beach, and then ran for solicitor in 1998. And it's been just a blessing and a great place to live. And we've raised our children here, and it's going to be tough to get me out of here.
Yes, absolutely. So this is an office you run for. You actually have to be elected for the solicitor for these two counties.
That's right. We've got the state of South Carolina has 16 elected solicitors. We're elected in staggered terms. Some of us run during the gubernatorial years. Some run during presidential years. I run with the same time as the governor. It's a 4-year term. It's a partisan election, so there can be a primary as well as a general election. And that's kind of how it goes. And I ran first in 1998. Had a very, very hotly contested race back in '98. We had a primary, a runoff, and a very spirited general election.
Yes.
And since then, I've been unopposed. So,
golly, that's a good sign, Greg.
Now, having run opposed and having run unopposed, I can tell you unopposed is better. Absolutely.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
God. Now, had you always thought growing up that I'm going to be an attorney?
For a long time. And I had actually, when I was in middle school, our civics class had a mock trial. Right. And it went on for several weeks, and I was actually on the defense team. It was a criminal case, and I was the chief counsel on the defense team. And I just really got fascinated by the whole process,
right.
and wasn't too nervous about getting up in front of my fellow classmates and pitching this case. And we got a not guilty.
Oh, wow.
And later found out the guy actually did do the murder, so it was a real case, and that was pretty interesting. And then we had another opportunity in high school to do a mock trial and enjoyed that, and so it got me kind of started on that path.
How exciting, Greg.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Think about that aspect if you hadn't become an attorney, if you hadn't been thinking about that in 6th grade and actually beginning to get excited about it. what do you think you would have done?
You know, there's no telling. You know, my dad, all he asked me to, he said the only two things he didn't want me to grow up to be, one was a lawyer, one was a preacher. So who knows, I might have been a preacher, but it, you know, it was, I guess the lesson from all that for me is a lot of the lawyers in my office help out with the mock trial teams around here in Horry County. We have a very active group of mock trial teams that typically, you know, somebody from Horry County is always going to state competitions and a lot of times winning state competitions.
Right,
North Myrtle Beach just won the state high school competition.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always am eager for them to help out with those because it's, you just never know how you're going to affect that a child.
There really was a time when parents would say, I really want you to do something like this. I want you to go into law. I want you to be a doctor. Have you had that same role like your father did with you, with your own children, Greg? Have you and Renee been that way, or have you? Not
as direct in that way, no. You know, more just general. Want them to be happy.
Yes.
Want them to be happy. Get an education. Try to find what their passion is, and then pursue that. So, but not specifically like, you know, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be a doctor, not like that.
Share with viewers about some of the challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges here in the 15th Circuit and the Horry and Georgetown County areas in the Solicitor's office?
You know, probably the biggest immediate challenge that we're facing is the same challenge as facing many government offices throughout South Carolina, throughout the country, and it's just funding. You know, our revenues, government revenues are down. We've had to cut back on staff. We've had to cut back some on services. You know, and we're a key, you know, a key function of government. I mean, you know, protecting the citizens is an essential function of government, where some other areas, you know, it's debatable how essential that is. And so that's made it a challenge. You know, it's, you know, our folks are typically underpaid. The lawyers, they make a pretty good living, but they could go into private practice and make more. And when the money gets tight, it just makes it more difficult to manage and keep people motivated and excited about what they're doing.
Well, what have you done to overcome that? I mean, is there anything other than just getting up, waking up, and getting into work in the morning?
Well, we try to be creative with some of our funding. We've been able to get some grant money to replace some things. We've not had to lay anybody off, and I think that's been important. We haven't had to furlough anybody. We have had positions we haven't filled. But I think that when the staff sees that you're out there fighting for them and trying to prevent them from, you know, losing ground or losing their job, they appreciate it, and they're willing. You know, they're willing to do the work. I mean, they're committed and they're dedicated. But it's, you know, I think that's the best thing we can do is just show that we're really, you know, it's from a management standpoint, really out there trying to look out for them and take care of them.
Is there any aspect of technology for you guys, for the solicitor's office, that has really impacted you the most, let's say in the last 5 years, something that's really helped so that with not the full staff at the capacity that you'd like it to be, there's some aspect that's really helped keep you moving along?
You know, computers certainly have helped us automate a lot of our functions, because we'd send out, you know, literally thousands of subpoenas a year, thousands of documents. You know, we handle thousands of worthless check cases, which is kind of a repetitive thing. So we've been able to use technology to help us to cut costs on that. I think from a thing that has had more of an impact on the criminal justice system in the last few years, it's certainly been DNA. I mean, no question that you know, you see CSI and TV shows like that, and they make me crazy because they're so, you know, illegal what they're doing. But we could never do what they do. But DNA really has had a tremendous impact on our ability to detect crime, and it really is the new fingerprint. And we've, you know, as recently as earlier today, we were working on a murder case. One of my deputies and I were working on a murder case where we had blood left in a scene, in a murder scene. We didn't know who it belonged to. This particular individual got arrested in Tennessee, committing an armed robbery and a home invasion. As part of their law, which we have in South Carolina, when they go into the Department of Corrections, they have to give a blood standard. That standard is then tested and put into a DNA database, just like a fingerprint. You know, same as same.
Oh, yeah.
It's no different than fingerprints. You know, it's the same. People say, well, it's an invasion of privacy. No, it's not. Just like it's just an identifying marker. We had this unidentified blood standard that had been left in the house that we had on sort of in this computer system searching, you know, and it goes through every once in a while as an unknown searching, and we got a hit on this guy's blood. Go back and take a blood draw from him, take this the standard we have from the House and do a formal analysis.
Right.
And lo and behold, it's him. So we've now apprehended a murderer based on nothing but that new technology.
That is tremendous.
Yeah, it's
Golly.
pretty neat stuff.
That is tremendous. Well, that really impacts things. You know, you mentioned CSI. I got to say,
Yeah.
do you get it at Rotary? Do you get it at church? Do folks come up and say, I was watching CSI the other night. I want to run this by you, Greg?
I had a lady at church. It's funny you say at church, but she was a nice, a little older lady at church who had had a forgery, and someone had stolen one of her checks and had forged her name on the check and cashed the check.
Right.
And she was really upset about it, and saw me at church one Sunday. I need to talk to you, solicitor. And she said, I need to know, I need you to check on this case for me. They tell me, they haven't got any leads, and it's a forgery case, and I want you guys to run DNA on it.
Right.
And I said, well, ink doesn't have any DNA. I mean, I don't know what to. There's no DNA to be had. And,
Yeah.
and she, but she's watching television,
Oh, yeah.
seeing all this amazing technology that is sort of Buck Rogers type stuff. But,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
She thought, so we were unable to run the DNA, but she was
That's tough.
disappointed
In
when I
a
had
church
to.
environment. Hopefully she's watching now and at least knowing that you made that effort.
She
to go
knows.
the extra
She
mile.
knows
Oh,
if
yeah.
we could have, we would have.
Yeah,
she
that's
does.
tremendous.
Yeah.
You think about programs kicking off, and every year, particularly you highlighted funding. That's a real tough position when funding's not there, but there've got to be some programs still to kick off, to initiate. Are there any new programs currently being considered in the Solicitor's Office for 2011?
Well, we've had and of course when money's tight, it makes it very difficult to initiate some new ideas, or you just kind of have to hold what you got. But we were fortunate last year in receiving a federal grant to expand our drug court program. And our drug court we've had for about it's in our 6th year with our drug court program. It has really proven itself to be a very, very effective program, very cost effective, very effective in changing lives for the better.
Yes.
And taking some pressure off the criminal justice system. So we had it in Horry County, but they're kind of expensive to run. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to expand it to Georgetown. We were able to get some grant money, so that program has already expanded into Georgetown. We're taking clients down there and already have space and working it, and so it's it's up and running in Georgetown already.
That's tremendous. I saw one of your attorneys on the front page of the Sun News, the daily paper here in Horry and Georgetown County recently. Is that related in the same way?
That was
something different.
Ricky Todd was doing is helping on the DUI prosecution.
DUI, forgive me.
That's a different thing. We have had DUI prosecutors, but some of that funding was cut, and so we were able to replace that with a state grant, and that the Department of Public Safety obtained. Actually, it was a federal grant that the state agency obtained, and we were able to fill in that hole with that. So we'll keep on fighting while we can.
Thanks for mentioning that. Forgive me for diverging from drug courts. And of course, you think about it. Have you found the drug court, the success rates have been high? You feel good about that?
It took us about a year to figure out how to do it. I mean, it's like any new program. You have to learn how to manage it and operate it effectively. But once we were up and rolling, we've had 70. It doesn't graduate a lot of people. It's not a high volume kind of a thing. It's very limited. It's not for everybody. It's very difficult. And I could go through the structure. It's kind of involved. But the bottom line is this: we've had 70 graduates from drug court. Of those 70 graduates, when they came into drug court, they averaged over 14 arrests per person. So the folks that went into that program, they're not, the easy ones. I mean, these are people that have serious addiction problems. They have basically they're career criminals. Their life of crime is being driven by this drug addiction.
Right.
There might be burglaries they're doing. It might be car break-ins. It might be forgeries. It might be, selling drugs or, using drugs, or there's a whole range of crime that they get involved in, but mainly to support their drug habit.
Right.
We've run statistics on the post-graduates, the 70 that graduated with that many arrests.
Right. Since
they graduated in that 5-year period, we have had 9 arrests.
Oh, come on.
3 felonies, 6 misdemeanors. So some were minor offenses. So it is a really remarkable statistic to see. You go from really it was over 800 arrests over here to 9 arrests over here.